Today I have Sarah Ellis with us. She's the extension agent that is responsible for everything living well. That is a huge area. But today looks like we're focusing on something in the kitchen. And I love herbs, especially fresh herbs. They add a lot of flavor to food. So tell us, is there any flavorings we need to be cautious about? Or I don't see salt or pepper or anything here, so tell us about this stuff.
Well, a lot of people think that they can only have either taste or nutrition, and that's a misconception. We can actually have both, taste and nutrition, but it's by using fresh herbs or even dried herbs and spices that we can create delicious flavored foods while reducing our sodium, sugar, and fat intake.
I could be one of those people who thinks, you know, I need to have sort of my go-to is always salt and pepper. So you're suggesting that maybe I could reduce my salt intake by using some of these things here?
Yes. Well, sodium or salt is one of the things that Americans get too much of. And a lot of our sodium comes from processed or prepared foods. But by thinking fresh, we can reduce our sodium intake. And actually, salt is really just a flavor enhancer. It's not a seasoning. Salt is actually more commonly used to enhance the flavor of sweets. So lately you've been seeing a lot of chocolates probably they have Dove that has sea salt and caramel and things like that. It's because it's a natural flavor enhancer, where this is more of a way to season your foods without using all the other extra stuff.
So we can still get that flavor by using a little less sodium.
Yes.
Are there other things we need to worry about too besides just sodium?
Well, fat and sugar intake is also really important, and really what you want to be careful with fats is the bad fats, the fats that make your high cholesterol levels increase. So here I have a little sample of things to make pesto with. And so extra virgin olive oil is one of the ingredients in pesto, and that's a really great way to get a healthy fat, and the healthy fats help lower your total blood cholesterol. And then sugar is a really important ingredient for a lot of foods, but we really don't need all the sugar that we're taking in every day. It has a lot of calories without any positive benefits for it. So
a little bit of moderation there.
Yes, yep. So we really want to watch with moderation. And there are ways to make a lot of foods a lot more healthy, such as modifying recipes. So I have, just as I said, some ingredients here for some roasted garlic pesto.
Smells wonderful.
So you start with a clove of garlic, which I'm sure you're familiar with, and you take the entire clove and you just cut the top off of it, put it in a pan with some olive oil and roast it in the oven for about 70 minutes. And then it pops right out of the little shell here, and you put it in the food processor. You add some fresh Parmesan cheese, some fresh pine nuts, or you can use walnuts if you don't like pine nuts, and then some basil. Put it all in the food processor. And when you're done, you have some nice fresh roasted garlic pesto. And that's a really healthy way to get a lot of greens in your diets as well. Herbs are really high in vitamins, minerals, and antioxidants. Basil is really high in vitamin K, vitamin A, and vitamin C. A half a cup of parsley has as much vitamin C in it as a orange. So,
wow, that's really amazing. So so these actually have some very positive benefits besides just having some wonderful flavors.
Yes, yes, absolutely. And now you can use dried as well if you're not one who's really quite ambitious enough to try with the fresh. Herbs are great, dried herbs or spices, but you really need to watch what you're picking up because the sodium can be very high in the blends. So here I have a all-purpose adobo blend, which is used a lot in Spanish-style cooking. But when I look at the label, how much sodium does that say right there?
Yeah, it's 350 milligrams. That's 15% just in one.
15% in one serving, and that's a lot. Anything above 5 is considered high in sodium. Oh. But then we have this one, which says,
no sodium, heart healthy.
So we really want to.
She's really making me work here.
So we really want to make sure we're reading our labels when we're buying our herbs and spices as well in the blends, because they can have sodium in them. Now I have chili powder here as well, and the chili powder has sodium in it, but it's a very low amount. It's actually 0% of your daily value, so this would be an okay one to use. But the adobo, I would definitely be cautious using that. Yeah.
When you're cooking with herbs, do you use the same amount from a recipe with the fresh herbs or the dried herbs, or do you have to modify that a little bit.
You have to modify the recipe. They can be a little bit more potent than fresh herbs. So you want to be careful with how much you're adding. And if you're doubling recipes, you really want to be careful because you don't want to just double the herbs as well. Oh. So if you're modifying recipes and you're using dried instead of fresh, you can, depending on the type of herb it is, whether or not it's a whole leaf or if it's a crumble, that helps determine also. But it's generally for 1 tablespoon of fresh, you're using 1 teaspoon of dried. That's the general rule of thumb.
So about 1/3 as much. And I suppose if I've got some chili powder that's from the last millennium, then I should probably toss that.
Well, actually, they really don't, even though some of them do have expiration dates, seasonings really don't go bad technically. But if there's no flavor or no smell to it, then there's probably not going to be very much flavor to it. It's almost like tea, where tea doesn't really go bad, but it just loses its potency after a while. So if your herbs or spices are really old, you might just need to add a little bit more than you would normally.
Okay, well, good to know.